You ever stop and think about what happens to your old phone or laptop when you get a new one? It doesn't just, vanish. It kind of leaves behind this digital ghost. And what's wild is that hidden inside that ghost, there's some serious value. Okay, let's dive right into this whole world of urban mining, where our old gadgets are actually fueling a modern-day gold rush. So first up, let's talk about treasure that's literally locked away inside all the tech we just toss out. I know it sounds like something out of a sci-fi movie, but it turns out our landfills, they might just be some of the richest resource deposits on the entire planet. So for real, could that dusty old desktop computer that's been sitting in your attic for a decade actually be a small gold mine? It's a really cool idea, this whole digital gold rush. But let's separate the hype from reality and actually look at the hard numbers. Whoa, okay, check this out. We are not talking about a few microscopic specks here. A single Pentium Pro processor, from back in the 90s, can have around a full gram of gold in it. To give you some perspective, a regular gold mine might have to dig up and process an entire ton of rock just to get a few grams. Here, it's all packed into one tiny little chip. All right, so we've established the gold is definitely in there. The big question, of course, is how in the world do you get it out? And this right here is where the story splits into two very, very different paths. So on one side, you have these really informal, low-tech methods that are, frankly, incredibly dangerous. And on the other, you have formal, high-tech industrial processing. And believe me, these two approaches could not be more different. Not just in the technology they use, but in their safety and their impact on people's lives. Let's start with the informal backyard approach. The informal method, well, it's pretty grim. We're talking about people burning circuit boards right out in the open to melt off the plastic, dunking components in vats of dangerous acids like cyanide to dissolve other metals, and even using toxic mercury to pull out the gold. All of this is happening with little to no safety gear, and, just tragically, it often involves child labor. Now, in complete contrast, the formal process is pure science. These industrial recyclers use a technique called pyrometallurgy. Think massive furnaces cranked up to over 1,500 degrees Celsius. All the e-waste gets melted down, and the heavy, precious metals sink and separate from all the lighter stuff. It's kind of like traditional smelting, but for old electronics. And the difference in the results? It's just staggering. The formal, high-tech process can recover over 95% of the gold. Those informal methods we just talked about, they only get about 25%. That means most of the value is literally going up in smoke. The high-tech way isn't just safer, it's unbelievably more effective. So with such a massive difference in efficiency, what does this all mean for the money? Can this digital gold rush actually be a profitable business? Let's take a look. Let's break down the value inside just one old desktop PC. You can see right away the most valuable thing in there by a long shot is the gold. Even though it's a tiny, tiny fraction of the computer's total weight, it's worth more than all the copper, steel, and aluminum combined. This is exactly why gold is the prize everyone's after. And when you do this at a massive industrial scale, the numbers get pretty wild. The research shows that a well-run, formal e-waste recycling operation can hit an internal rate of return, or IRR, of 47%. Now, that's basically a measure of how profitable something is. And trust me, a 47% return is just an insanely high number for almost any industry. And get this, the entire investment in one of these huge high-tech facilities can pay for itself in just a little over 2 years. So this proves it's not just some feel-good environmental project. It is a seriously powerful economic engine. But, profitability and efficiency, that's not the whole story. As we've hinted, this industry has a much, much darker side with some very real and very high hitting costs. This quote from the research paper, man, it really highlights the devastating human cost. It says, the children earn less than $20 a month. The child labor deprives school and playtime of these poor children. That is the harsh, tragic reality behind so much of the informal recycling world. And beyond that direct human toll, you've got the environmental damage. When e-waste is handled the wrong way, this whole cocktail of toxic stuff, we're talking lead, mercury, arsenic, it all gets released into the air, the soil, and the water, poisoning entire communities. The economic gap is just huge, too. For every ton of e-waste they process, the informal sector might make around $700.
But the formal sector, because it captures nearly all the precious metals, can make over $4,000 from that very same ton. Almost all of the real value is locked away unless you have the right technology.
But let's flip back to the positive side for a second, because the environmental benefits of proper recycling are massive. For every single PC that's processed the right way, we avoid over 5 kilograms of CO2 emissions compared to digging those same metals out of the ground. So urban mining, when it's done right, is an incredibly powerful tool for sustainability. What all this really shows is that our relationship with our gadgets doesn't just stop when we toss them. Their afterlife is this really complicated mix of economic opportunity, huge environmental risk, and some really profound human consequences. So let's just recap for a second. Urban mining is this fascinating paradox, right? It's a hugely profitable industry and a fantastic way to conserve our planet's resources, but at the exact same time, it can be an environmental nightmare that fuels human exploitation. The truth is, it's all of those things at once. And all of this leaves us with one final big question. The devices we use every single day, they become our digital ghosts when we're done with them. So, knowing that their journey could end in either a clean, high-tech furnace or a toxic backyard fire, what's our role in making sure their afterlife is a sustainable one and not a destructive one?